Right. So today I'm trying a new software out. I usually use Switchboard Live, and I'm using this new one that's on AppSumo called Melon, Melon. And let's see here. It's supposedly going to have chat on here so I can see if anyone accepts profile groups in LinkedIn. Well, what the heck is that going to be? Anyway, so today I'm going to talk about. I got a message yesterday morning. Um, a friend requested someone that was in a common group with me, and they basically sent this message to me. I'm not a big fan of these kind of messages because I'm not into like trying to prove myself or anything. But it says, "Hey Mike, thanks for reaching out and connecting. I watched a couple videos. I see some parallels with blah blah blah's strategy. Curious how you fit in or differentiate." Right. So for one, I'm not a big fan of answering questions like this. If I don't know. It's just like I'm not going to go into some kind of like justifying, proving myself kind of mode. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. So today I want to talk about a couple things. For one, I want to give you guys an overview of what I do, what most programs do, and kind of how it's different. So let me switch to my trusty iPad, see if this works. All right. So how are you different, right? Well, first of all, the person that they're referencing, they do a thing called it's a webinar funnel, right? And basically, how it goes is a Facebook ad to an opt-in page or a registration page, right? Webinar registration page is actually what it is, right? So same thing. And then you're going to go to the webinar, and then to book a call. So we'll call it book. So that's the whole funnel, right? And they teach you everything on how to do Facebook ads, to the copy, to crafting your offer. It's a business program. Like I don't do any of that, right? So I focus on only one thing, right? I'm not going to try to teach you to do everything in the business. They're great at it. I do one thing, and I work on helping you with the calls, right? So usually, people need to get calls booked, right? They know how have to have that in place, right? So how is it different? So especially with sales programs, because like that's what I'm going to really comparing it. The other program doesn't even it's not even the same world. I do one thing really well, and they do a lot of things, right? And they do them well. I'm not knocking it. They do a great job. But how most sales programs are different. Now, I do tons of sales programs. I am a sales junkie. I love it, and I've done I don't know how many I've done over the years. Tons, 50, 60, maybe more of different programs and trainings and stuff. And out of all that time, there's probably only like two that I would say if someone told me, "Hey, I'm doing this program," I'd be like, maybe three that I know of anyway, right? Or that I've done. And I'd say, dude, those are solid programs. They're great. You're going to get a lot out of it, right? But most of the ones I've seen or heard of, they have this idea of they're going to tell you you need the perfect. They're going to help you with the perfect script, and they'll help you rewrite your script. And it's almost like this. I always think of the word unicorn, right? People think that they're trying to find this magical thing. Oh, my script's finally dialed in. It's so perfect. I'm not a big fan of scripts personally, and most people never memorize them good enough to make it internalized, so it doesn't sound like a script. But anyway, and then other things they'll teach other sales training programs they'll teach like vague stuff, right? Like principles, vague principles, and not specifics, right? They don't even have like different ways to ask questions, different ways to, or if they give you some bullshit, how to uncover it and go through to get to the bottom of it, right? And a lot of sales programs spend a lot of time on mindset, believe it or not. I couldn't believe this. This is only recently I've seen this. And not enough time on skill set. Now, both are important. Both are very important. You need both, right? So but you need to drill the skills and you need to have a enrolling mindset. There's no question, right? Um, the biggest problem I see with most sales training programs is you have to try to make yourself fit into their script, into their mold, right? And it's basically it can work. Some people can do it, but most coaches can't, right? They're heart-centered people. It makes me sick to even say that, but like I don't like those words, but they care about people, and they talk about being authentic, and yet they're trying to follow someone else's script that they don't even talk like, right? So what happens is they come across like, like not like unauthentic, if that's a word, right? And unauthentic and like I guess incongruent, right? And what happens when you're unauthentic and incongruent, this is a big thing that what this triggers one objection more than others. Think about it. I need to think about it, right? Because then there's uncertainty and there's incongruency and there's being unauthentic, right? Another thing sales programs do is most of them, they're different. They don't have any guarantees. Or they'll give you some bullshit guarantee, which would be like it works 100% of the time for 100% of the people who apply it 100%. It's true. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, how can I guarantee something if I can't get a guarantee you're going to show up and do the work? So, I mean, there's truth to that, right? There's got to be some kind of thing. So, what's the biggest problems I see, first of all, with coaches on their sales calls and their rolling calls, whatever you call it? The first thing is they have no idea what they're doing wrong or missing on the calls, right? So they don't know. Don't know what's wrong or missing on the calls. They have no idea. They have no idea what's going on. I think they're either one thing or another. And then also their mindset is messed up too. So, I mean, people, it's weird. People do need, it's kind of a little contradictory. People do need work on mindset because their mindset goes in the toilet. But it's, because there's all these other factors that come into place. But what happens is their mindset's off, and then they get in this downward spiral, filled with uncertainty, with doubt, and eventually the imposter syndrome thing starts to kick in. Syndrome, right? You call reluctance, all that stuff, right? Number 3, this is another problem, is this is a big one too. They're not present on the calls, right? They're either in their head, which is really bad, thinking what I'm going to say next, or their head is in their script. Either way, they miss a ton of stuff. And like I've heard so many calls, even role playing with people, right? I'll go to a part where I'll be really vulnerable in the role play, and I'll open up like really deep, heavy stuff, right? And then I'll hear them just like no one acknowledge anything and go into like a stupid next question on the list, right? So how's that showing up in your business? It's like, are you fucking kidding me? I just poured my soul out to you, and you're going to ask me that? Like, right? And that's because they're stuck in their head or they're stuck in their script. The fourth problem I see is they think that the problem they need to work on is they just, if I could just overcome objections. If I could just overcome objections, I'd be great, because the rest of the call is perfect, right? That's what they think. Well, the rest of the call is not perfect, and handling objections is definitely something you want to work on at some point. But they're asking the wrong question. The main question they should be asking is like, why am I even getting that objection in the first place? It's much easier to handle objections before they come up than after they come up, right? But either way, you still need to know how to do that, right? But I like to eliminate them up front. And this is a big one. And this is I call this problems that coaches have. They give their power away. And how do they do that? Give their power away. And how they do that is I call The blame game. How does that? What is that? How does that show up? Like, oh, they weren't committed. Oh, they were broke. They were this. They were that. Oh, they all these things, right? So that's the five biggest problems, right? They don't know what they're missing or doing wrong on their calls. Their mindset is totally in the toilet, full of doubt, uncertainty, imposter syndrome. They're not present on their calls. Their head's in their script, or in just, I mean, sorry, they're in their script or in their head. They think that the biggest problem is overcoming the objections, and what they really should be thinking is, why am I even getting them in the first place? And they also have to learn how to overcome them, but preventing them is much easier. And they play the blame game, and by doing so, they give their power away, right? Okay, so that's great, Mike, but you still haven't said, how do you differentiate? Well, one of the things that I do, the first thing I do with anybody is, we do in the program, we do a lot of call breakdowns, right? So the first step, the first pillar, as you may, is basically assess, right? So that's call breakdowns. That's going to be like, what are you doing wrong? What's missing in the calls, right? Because there's patterns in there. And how do you fix something that you don't know what's wrong? It's impossible, right? So that's why it's so important. That's why we spend most of the time actually listening to calls. Because in theory, everything's right. I did everything right. You listen back to the call, it's not the case. The tonality, the pace, the inflections, pitches going up and down, etc. Right? So pillar 2 is, this is a big one, is we have to align, right? You have to get you in alignment. And it just sounds kind of, woo-woo, but it's not. And this is another problem that most coaching programs don't do. They give you a script, they give you lines, but they never work with you to find your own words in your own language, right? So it's completely authentic, right? And the reason why is it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of time, because I'll say it one way, and like most of my clients don't do it the way I do it, because it doesn't have their personality. So we find words that work for them, that work for their clients and for their business, right? So basically what we do with that is, we recreate everything. I can't even talk today. Jeepers creepers. Have I had coffee? I've had coffee. I've been to the gym. Jeepers. I don't know. So what do? We do that. We work on your own words. We work on your mindset, which is important too. Shifting beliefs. This is huge for you and for the client, how to do that. And it comes down to like another big word is identity. That's why people do mindset work all day long, and they don't believe it, right? I could say I'm an 8-foot Asian guy with red hair. I can say that all day long. I'm never going to believe it, because it's not true, right? Sorry. And then we're going to work on, obviously, the call framework, right? I believe in frameworks. In fact, I'm open with if people have their script and they want to use it, we start there. We just make it better. We take out all the things that create resistance in the person, and then we get their language right, and then we show them how to stay present in the call. And then eventually, everyone I work with ditches the script. But at first, you need to keep it. You need something solid. You don't want to change too much. The third part, or the third pillar, is articulate. And that's going to be the first thing we're going to do. Obviously, how you communicate and stuff like that. But we're gonna show you how to eliminate objections versus overcoming them. Eliminate objections. This is the part where we're going to show you how to master questions, asking questions. Because if you're not getting good answers, you're asking not good questions, right? If you want better answers, ask better questions. That's that simple, right? And this also ties into, how you present your offer and get them to make a decision. All right. And then the last one, which is important, is you need all 4 of these things, right? Is we need to apply everything, right? Application is everything. If it's not, it's like every other program, just theory, right? So this is where role playing comes in. Most people hate this at first because they're so bad at it and they're so bad on their calls. But once we do this for a couple of weeks, it becomes second nature. And then you realize, hey, I don't want to be practicing on my calls. I want to practice off of the calls. So when I show up to the calls, I'm ready. I've heard it already. I've role played it 40 times, 30 times, 50 times. So I don't have to go into fight or flight kind of thing, right? And then we go role playing, and then we go over framing, because that's huge. That's one of the biggest problems. I call prove commitment, make them prove commitment, which is a huge thing. And then also, like how do you integrate everything, right? So it's integration. So how do you put it all together into a fluid thing, right? So this is how I'm different, right? For one, we do tons. Let me make this bigger here. Sorry, we do tons of call breakdowns. Which is the most important thing. And I do one-on-one stuff too, guys. So it's like you don't get that attention in a group of 100 people. Just what if they say this? Like it doesn't matter. Like it's so crazy, right? So that's the biggest thing is call breakdowns, listening, pinpointing, knowing what's going on, and having that constant feedback loop, right? Because if you don't have that, like some programs will just not even listen to any calls, right? Which is insane. And some only listen to one call at the end. You're going through the 6, 8, 12-week program of just knowledge, which is cool. And then they listen to one call and they give you a PDF with just some general tips. I mean, we go over everything. We go over inflection. We go over like, okay, what were you thinking here? Why did you say this? This just created so much resistance. Stop telling them the problem and ask better questions, right? One of the things we teach in the program is how to turn your statements into questions, right? That's important. So find out what's going wrong. You got to be in complete alignment to find your own words. This is a big one. People don't realize this one. You need to have your language, right? You know, people go into the little pitch, the little script and stuff, and it's like, do you talk like that? Would you say that if you weren't doing that program? They go, no, never. What would you say? And we find the words, right? And having the call framework versus just being buried in the script. And then 3, being able to articulate things, right? How do you communicate? How do you prevent objections? How do you overcome them when they do come up? How do you present your offer, right? And then also, how do you get them to make a decision? And then obviously we have to apply all the information. Oops, I just hit my microphone. Is it still working? Yeah. Then we have to apply everything that we learn and put into real life, right? That's the most important. Everything else, if you take the first 3, you'll get pretty far because you'll know what you're doing wrong and you'll be in alignment, and then you'll have better questions. But you still have to apply it because every time you get caught with something, you won't have the reps in to be able to handle it. Anyways, I don't even know how long I'm going on this thing. Hopefully it's working. I think it is, but I didn't see any messages. I could have just did 20 minutes or however long this is for nothing. But anyway, if you have had 100, 200 calls and a handful or 2 enrollments, if you're under 10% enrollment rate, send me a message, like seriously, because you're just spinning your wheels. People are complaining about the crazy ad costs going up and Facebook ads not working since the iOS updates. But if you take your enrollment rate from 10% or 15% to 30 or 40%, who cares, right? That's the biggest way to fix your ads problem is enroll more people, right? So if you're tired of just guessing on the calls and not knowing what's going on, you want to know what's going on, what's missing or going wrong on the call, then just send me a message. We'll have a quick chat and see if it fits. All right. That is it for today. Take it easy, guys. Hopefully it worked.